In April 2018, the entire Casco Bay High School junior class went to the Katahdin region. All 100 students traveled the 199 miles north to hear the stories of folks living in the northern part of our state. Before our journey, we learned about the economic and social challenges of Maine towns transitioning away from mill-based economies. We learned about the increasing ideological polarization in our state and our country. We wanted to break that pattern. We knew that as young people growing up in Portland, there was a lot we didn't understand about life in the rest of our state. We formed groups of 3 or 4 students, learned how to use cameras and audio recording equipment, and interviewed 25 locals who shared their stories with us. We interviewed foresters, river guides, high school students, former mill workers, and many others. All were generous and welcoming to our diverse bunch of Portland teens. We are grateful for their stories and hope this film does them justice.
Part of the appeal of this area is just the vast openness of possibility of things, you know, in terms of space and trails and waters, things that you can do. The opportunity feels really open and exciting. You don't feel constricted or limited. My name is Matt Delaney, and I'm the director of the Millinocket Memorial Library. I grew up in Voorheesville, which is a suburb of Albany, New York. It's a big thing to move up to Millinocket. It was like all these different future, past, presents colliding, it felt like. In my case, the fact that from pretty much day one, I was working with the library, and I had a very simple story to share with people, which is that I came here and I'm the librarian in town. But my identity as the librarian, I think, made it a lot easier for people to accept my being here. Since I've been here, when I do interviews in this room, talking to people to understand about their experience growing up here, I hear a lot of stories about when I was a kid and I visited the library, and I've heard so many really special stories about people's experience here. The Katahdin Story Booth Project is an oral history project. The goal is to basically record and archive and share stories of the Katahdin region. We had a man named Chuck Harris here who was on the last log drive that came into Millinocket, and he talked about just a life of adventure in the woods and on the water. Certainly a lot of stories about the mill, about Great Northern Paper. I've been here for 15 or 16 months now, so I'm really new to the area, and it was a really great way for me to just get some understanding of what it was like, or what it is like growing up here. The building was built in 1963, so it's been 55 years since it was built. So we're updating that. And we want it to be kind of a demonstration project for how to create a sustainable building and a sustainable program. We want to look at things like putting a solar array on the roof and using solar energy to power the building, and putting wood pellet boilers here so that we're fueling and heating the building with a local fuel source. If I can help build a beautiful, state-of-the-art, vibrant library in Millinocket, maybe that's like a way that I can earn my place here.
As the deer yearns for water, so have I longed for you. Only in you, the living God, resting my whole life through. We're fortunate, our house in Millinocket, it becomes the hub for for the family, and the family, they pour into town on almost any occasion. That, you know, it's common for us to be well over 30 people for Thanksgiving dinner.
My entire family is in this town because of the mill. The other three graduated from high school here and are all working in the area. So it wasn't uncommon for an entire family, generation after generation, to stay in the town.
When I went away, my brother, my sister, both my sisters lived here, and my parents lived here, and it was good to see everybody again.
When and how I met Donna is a is a story that's been told countless times. Potato farmer that I had picked for many, many years was about the first one in the Holton area to go to mechanical harvesting. So there were no more potato pickers needed there. So I went to pick for a different farmer that year, and Donna and her brothers and her mother picked for that farm. And so I went down and started doing my thing and just pick. And in the next section was this girl covered in dirt head to toe, and it was Donna, and that's how we met. We've been married 48 years, so that's well over 50 years ago.
I always felt like our kids played in the woods. Our kids rode their bikes all over town. They walked to school. I never felt any fear that they weren't going to be safe. People in this town kind of looked out for each other's kids. It was kind of like a village raised a child. Yeah, I just feel like it was like a really great place to raise kids.
We were fortunate that right across the street from us, we had two nephews and a niece, Donna's sister, and so their three and our four were like one family. And even today, that bond between all the cousins hasn't let up at all. It could have happened anywhere, but I think it was very easy for it to happen here.
There's a big sense of family in Millinocket.
There's community suppers, and they'll raise $5,000–6,000 for families. People really rally around together and support both financially and emotionally. And until you have a hardship in the family, you don't realize how important that is. But we've experienced it firsthand in our family with the loss of our daughter, and the overwhelming support from community members, and not just family, but friends and work people, and even the outreach of people that we barely knew was just incredible. And I hope that never ever goes away, no matter how much the town grows and so forth, because that's one of the things that's really special about this area. Last summer, after the family camping trip, everybody was here for a day. It was fun. We were just sitting here, kids were playing on the beach, and the whole cove was just filled with family and stuff, and we were just sitting here just like with smiles on our faces and said, yes, this is what it's all about.
Thirsting for you, my God, knowing your truth within me. When can I see you as you are, God of my life?
Somewhat amazed at the resilience of the people. We were one house down. That house died, and look where it left us. My name's John Davis. I've lived in Millinocket all my life. Graduated in '73, went into the mill. At one time, the mill paid almost $4 million worth of taxes here in town. Probably 75–80% of our tax base was the mill. And it employed like 4,500 people when all facets of it were running. I had a steady job in the woodroom. okay? Because when I get in there, I'm green, 18, 19 years old, even though most of my friends worked there. And it started shutting down in 86. Well, actually 88, they made the announcement in 86, and from that time on, it was just, not so much for me, but a roller coaster ride for a lot of people. Get laid off, called back, laid off, and then finally laid off for good. But it was, it was a bad experience around here for just about everybody. I think we've probably lost at least 2 generations around here, and that's one of the biggest problems. Is a lot of these people don't want to leave, but they don't have much to do here to make a living. When I got laid off, I went back to school. The federal government had a program where they paid for your school, and I was fortunate enough that I was one of the guys that really liked to read, and to get back into the studying at late 40s, early 50s was tough. And I ended up getting my bachelor's degree, and here I am. There were some very intelligent people there, but they just didn't want to get back into the schoolwork. So what they did is they followed the mills around the state. So they didn't have any problem getting hired at other mills, but then the mills all started shutting down. So, well, I always wanted to come back. Like I said, I was born and raised here. I like this community, small town community. We've got a pretty good school system, low crime. And plus this job opened up, so that, that had a lot to do with it too. Well, the town manager is like the CEO of a company. People come in here with problems, and we try to straighten them out. We want to bring some of the manufacturing jobs in, and that helps create a tax base, so that'd be a big boost to us. And I noticed last summer that this Main Street, I haven't seen that many cars on Main Street all summer. 15, 20 years. So tourism, I'm not a big fan of the National Monument, but if it brings people here, that's good. And it has brought people here. I think we're starting to come out of it. Not really any changes, but I see it getting back to normal, the way it always was. I think Waskin's still going to take a lot of work, but I think we can do it.
My name is Deb Roundtree, and I am the Associate Academic Dean at Eastern Maine Community College here at the Higher Ed Center in East Millinocket. The center was built in 1986 when, at the time, Great Northern Paper Company started to announce its first round of downsizing. State representatives and economic development folks in this region submitted a grant to the federal U.S. Department of USDA, the Economic Administration, in essence to work on a situation that might work out this kind of the scenario what might happen in the region if the mills at that time closed. So a bunch of these folks got together and came up with a plan for retraining people in this region that had been to work in the paper mill. If the mill was to close, what they might want to do, and the folks that were getting laid off, how to get ready and prepare to be laid off from the mills. And since then, and I hate to say it this way, but since then it's almost been like Groundhog's Day. So things just kind of took a downward spiral over the course of 20 plus years. And in 2002, the day after Christmas, we showed up here for work, and literally the mill had filed bankruptcy. So we opened the door in the morning, and like 1,300 people just showed up here. They had tried to go to work. They got to their workplace and found that the gates had been chained and locked. So a lot of my experience is working with people going through change and how to deal with change and how to figure out, like what they wanted to do when they were out of high school. They first graduated high school, they went to work for Great Northern Paper. Their future was secure. They didn't have to think or want for anything. For these men and women that lost their jobs that way, they had to take a step back and think about, wow, this is either really bad or this could be really good, depending on what I choose, and help them to understand that there's often a second pathway out there that may not have known about. So, over the years of working with people that have lost their jobs, you see a tremendous change in people, and usually it's for the best, even though it's really hard. and you see their world take a complete, 180 turn, and for them to get a degree, as long as we can provide support and encouragement for them, and become very successful in another life. So we have people all over the state and outside of Maine as well that have gone off and done better things that they ever imagined that they would be able to do when they worked in the mill.
I don't like the snow and the cold. I mean, my bones are getting different now. I don't like shoveling the camp roof. Can't get my grandkids to come down and do it for me. But this is a great place to raise a child. This is a great place. I was born here, I'll die here, and I love it here. My name is Michael Jewers. I'm 68 years old. I worked 41 years in the mill. As a senior, the personnel director from Great Northern Paper would come into our senior class with a hat with numbers in it. Girls were not allowed to work in the mill back then. So all the boys picked out of this hat. There was a job up and your number was next. You went to that job. Being around all these people, and there was a lot of people, and there were a lot of stories from these people. And when you had your breaks, you heard these stories, whether it be about family, what happened to them hunting, or it was just a whole conglomerate of stuff happening in the mill setting. It was a family. I mean, it was a community within the community, and it hurt when it went down. Hurt. One of the things that we seemed to pick up a gene for in that period of time was cancer. And I held all of my brothers when they passed away. That was horrible. I'm the last of the brothers. All my 5 sisters are still here, thank God. And we get together every once in a while. I watched these people walk down the church, and I had no idea what that was. No, not a clue. So Cheryl's brother, Wally, tapped me on the shoulder one time leaving church, says, "Why don't we join them?" I said, "Join who?" He said, "The Knights of Columbus there." And I said, "Well, what is it?" When I had my cancer and when I had my heart problems, they would come over in carpools and take me to Bangor every day. Every day they took me to Bangor, especially on my cancer treatments, because after they made the surgery, I had to have 30 radiation treatments, and I never even asked. They showed up knocking on the door and said, "Come on, you're going with me today." And it's a good feeling that other people are out for the best of your interest too. Community offers so much, and sometimes it's from the heart. Sometimes it doesn't take a lot for a person to have a grin on their face, or to feel inside, that was a good decision. No matter how small the community is, or how big the community is, the goal is the same.
If I was able to do something for the town, I would get the mill back up and running. I'm Leanne Jordan Hicks. I am from here. I'm 15 years old. I have 10 siblings, 7 brothers and 3 sisters. That's all I can play. My hobbies are, I like to sing and dance, and I do chorus, show choir, and one act. We live in Millinocket, not too far from here. My mom came from Greenville, and my dad came from Miami, and they met in college. My oldest sister, she was born in Miami, and then the rest of us were adopted up here. Things are harder than it should be, because how many people we have in my house right now. I live with 4 of my brothers and one of my brother's girlfriends. The rest of them have moved out and they live just around Maine in different places. And my mom lives up here and my dad had passed away a couple years ago. He was in the Army for 5 years, I think it was. He went to Vietnam. He would be 68 this year, I think. Good memory is when my dad started teaching all of us how to fish and different things that he liked to do. The mill affected my dad because he was working over there before it closed. It stopped running 13 years ago, but currently they're tearing everything down, just taking everything out. Music helps me with my dad's death, with like calming me down and keeping me just full on calm. Because other times I have like anxiety or depression and all that. It started coming up more when my dad died. 'Cause he's the reason for the teardrops on my guitar. The only thing that keeps me wishing on a wishing star. I'm gonna go to college to be a guitar tech. It's basically, I'm doing audio things for bands, and that's what I want to do for sure. I'm kind of unique because they don't really know what they want to do. I think it makes me feel more powerful because I know what I want to do and how I will help people with it. And music helps me, and it helps a lot of other people. What Millinocket means to me is it's my home. I've lived here my whole life. It's pretty. I love it up here.
You people are our future, and we need to help you and work with you and give you the education and the protection to have your education so that you can be successful. And not always am I right, not always am I on the right path, but I try to follow that path and get the job done. I am Frank Boynton. I am the superintendent, principal, special ed administrator of the Millinocket School Department. I also coach the boys JV basketball team, and I even drive a bus once in a while. Off and on, I've been in Millinocket since I was born in 1952. The house that we live in is actually an old family house. It was the 4th house in town, and my grandchildren who are living there now will be, I believe, generation number 7. When I came here in 1974, I was one of the highest paid rookie teachers in the state, only because the pay scale here was that. Now it's the opposite. The number of people who are unemployed is very large. This school was built for probably much closer to 1,000 or 1,200 students instead of the 250 that are in here. So it's really is a radical change. I have really dedicated my time to any position that I've had. I was supposed to work 3 days a week. Very honestly, and I think most people around here will say the same thing. I've never worked 3 days a week here since I've been here. 5, 6, or 7, but not 3, because I feel a big responsibility for the school, so therefore I'm basically here most of the time and work far beyond what my pay says. I'm going to China tomorrow morning, and it is to visit the 3 schools that we have over there, and also to recruit students to come here next fall. This will be trip number 7. Students go to these schools with dorms from kindergarten to 12th grade. That bothered me a lot because it was so out of my idea of family and living together and raising children. I just like to see things done right. And I think that whether it's this or if it's a project at home or something like that. I just want to see it done right and done to the best of our ability. I think that it's going to take a lot of people working together to bring this back. I think I am seeing some encouraging signs of that. So it's a real case of making this happen. And I think it takes a lot of people working together and a lot of people working hard.
I think that like tap and jazz are like equally my favorite. I've been taking them for like a long time. I've been taking tap and ballet since I was 3, and I've been taking like tumbling since I was 4, and then you can start jazz in 2nd grade and hip hop in 6th grade, and I've been doing them for as long as I was able to do them. So it's just been like a really big part of my life. I've learned to be mentally tough, and so I know that sometimes like life can be like so hard, and like you can think it's like you've hit rock bottom, but then something else could like come up or something, and it's just really taught me to kind of like how to deal with those like life challenges. I grew up in Smith Pond, which is right outside Millinocket, heading towards Baxter State Park. I remember like in the spring, like our backyard would flood, and so we would kayak in our backyard because we live on Smith Pond, or we used to anyway. We live in town now. I have an older brother. He's a senior this year, and he's always been involved in dance and performing arts and things, and so I remember really little when I was watching him on stage shows, and I just knew that's what I wanted to do. I do a lot of the performing arts activities. In the fall, we do fall musical. We have rehearsals, and that usually runs until about Thanksgiving time. And then day after fall musical, show choir starts. And so we do show choir and 1 act. I do those as well. I also do like band and chorus and jazz band. There's not a lot of kids here, so a lot of us are in the same things, so we get to see each other all the time. Our dance studio, it's not an in-school activity, it's separate, but Studio One, I take a lot of classes there. I mean, I'm there every day but Friday. I've been taking classes there since I was 3. And it's a really big part of this community. There are a lot of kids who take dance. There are a lot of people from Millinocket, East Millinocket, Medway, Patton, Holton. We all come in to take dance classes at Studio One. Not only do I take dance classes, I also get to help teach like younger kids. So I help out with quite a few like preschool and kindergarten classes. So we actually get a chance to teach them what we know. There are a lot of kids who come in, they're not the actual teachers, they're just like demonstrators, or we call them like helpers. We always love to go in and help them teach because we just get to see them grow too, and it's such a great opportunity. We have kids coming from all over the area to travel to dance here, and I think it's just shown the community that we can work together as kids and do great things. Because you have to have so much strength, and not only just like body strength, you have to have so much mental strength. I think just like dance is my passion, and like I don't really care if I'm learning it or teaching it. It's just like what I love to do. I know that it definitely takes a village, and this is a really nice village.
The most important event in my life, probably, I guess getting my job, maybe. That seems to be like the turning point to being me as a shut-in when I was a little younger, and me actually getting out and doing stuff. I had to fill out like all that type of job applications and stuff at 15, and I basically felt like my childhood was over at that, and it was kind of depressing at first, but after a while of being there, you know, so happy I did it. My dad, he works a lot, like he'll be gone for weeks at a time, and I really kind of respect that. Like I like his work ethic, and I think it's really cool to
try to find a work ethic of your own. Me and my brother both got taught lessons by him. He always had a catchphrase, if you show up 15 minutes early, you're on time. If you show up on time, you're late, and might as well not be there. So I'm thinking it would be nice to, look into something furthering my education a little bit more, but with such a small schooling system and stuff like that, it's not really any time to think things further. I've always wanted to write, books and stuff. I'll read the newest one I was working on. Colt sat alone that night. The stars shined bright unlike the night 5 years ago. He remembered his old life before the incident. Not much had seemed to change, though. Only in Colt's mind was everything different. I like just trying to see what my limit is on most things, and it's not a bad thing to have, because to get out of a small area and into something larger, bigger, better jobs and stuff like that, because I want to see more of the world. With this place in general, you're kind of shut in, protected all your life, where when you finally get to leave, you get to see how things really can be. I like to think that I can make my way on my own. Being here, everyone's looking out for you and telling you what to do and what not to do. And it's nice to think that one day you can go out and make those decisions on your own.
I wouldn't say I'm a really spiritual person, but the outdoors is a spiritual place for me. I feel good, I feel happy, I feel healthy, I feel alive. And there are all kinds of people now that would tell you there are sort of physiological reasons for that. I was a competitive kayaker in college, and I took a summer job teaching canoeing and kayaking so I could be in my boat all the time, and that company was affiliated with a whitewater rafting company in Maine. I grew up back and forth between Bridgeton and Augusta, the state capital. My father taught at the University of Maine in Augusta, so I actually went to school in Augusta, but we always more or less considered Bridgeton home. We spent all our summers there. I went to camp at Camp Winona, which is in Bridgeton, and really got to know the state of Maine through Camp Winona, through canoeing. I canoed all the major rivers in Maine, except the St. John, which I finally got to do a few years back. And I learned to love water, and then I learned to whitewater kayak, and I got into competitive kayaking, and that's what led me ultimately to probably the career I'm in now. When we bought these camps, they were doing $50,000 worth of business a year. So on this roughly the same acreage right now, we do about $2.5 million worth of business. That's in 22 years' time. So what we found, and we've really found it here in the Katahdin region, is that our guests are incredibly interested in what's going on locally. And the local economy matters to them. The quality of life for people that live here matters to them. The condition of the real estate as they drive through town catches their eye. Is it, why is it degrading? Why are buildings not being maintained? I think being on the town council highlighted for me the challenges that people that had lived here for generations experienced with the decline of the wood products industry and the mills. And I wanted to try to make things better if there was a way I could do it. And I'm still motivated by that desire to make things better. And when I say make things better, really it's about making the economy better. I love the outdoors, I love the natural setting, but I also like the idea that you can make a difference here. People say, why are you in Millinocket? And I jokingly, but not completely jokingly, say, well, I'm trapped by the business I'm in. I mean, I have so much invested here and so much debt on what I have invested here that I can't leave. And then the question is, well, would you want to leave if you could? And I think, you can always leave. You can always pick up and move if you want to do it. It may not be easy, but you can do it. And I don't want to leave. I love it here.
My passion in life is trying to find solutions to problems. I grew up in the woods. As a kid of about 11 or 12 years old, my brothers and I would go fishing. My mother would say, "Are you guys going to be home tonight?" Never word if we didn't come home. I was born here, but I grew up in East Millinocket until I was 7 years old, and then moved to Ripogenus Dam, which is 30 miles into the woods out of Millinocket today. My father was an electrician in the hydro system for the Great Northern Paper Company. So I went to a one-room schoolhouse up there until I went to high school and came back to Millinocket for Stearns High School. And I got a draft notice. It was 1966. The Vietnam War was going on. When I got my draft notice, I went down and enlisted and joined the U.S. Air Force and was a tactical air controller. When I got out of the service, I came back and went enrolled at the University of Maine to go back to college and get my degree. I was a business major. My wife was very involved in politics. She took me to a Democratic caucus in 1970. I didn't know what a caucus was. Got kind of addicted. I changed my major to political science. Got the degree in political science, graduated in 73. In 74, I was elected to the state senate. In the political arena, into leadership, I just felt there were things that weren't being done that needed to be done, so kind of stepped forward and offered to do it. I spent 9 terms in the state senate, 7 of them in a leadership position. Having worked in Washington, D.C. in 2 different presidential administrations, I came back and I served as acting town manager here for 6 months when their previous town manager had left and they were looking for somebody. It wasn't something at the time I was looking to do. I got on the town council because 2 councilors had resigned. A number of citizens asked if I would run for the council. It really wasn't what I wanted to do at that point in time. I was well past 65 and retired and closing in on 70 really. But I agreed to take a 1-year term. When that was over, I did run for a 3-year term. My immediate hope is stabilization, which I think we've pretty much achieved. We've stabilized the decline. The question is now starting the upswing, and can we start bringing in some businesses? It's really almost like planting a garden. You wait for a while for the seedlings to pop up and the buds to come out. We're hoping that we're at that stage that we've started to plant. We've made the soil fertile again, that we can start to grow.
But I had a lot to prove as a young female in my mind. I don't think anyone else had set me up to that perception except myself, because I really wanted to do well and be accepted and not just be like, hey, she did this and that's a great achievement.
I am Lauren Calvi. I live in Island Falls and work in the Katahdin region as an education technician at Region 2 in the Forest Management and Operations Department.
I was probably 2.5 when we moved away, and then I was 17 when I went up to Fort Kent. I remember when I was really little, my parents owned this really big farmhouse, and I remember we had a front porch, and you could see Katahdin from where it sat up on the old Morrow Road in Merrill. Definitely one of my favorite childhood memories coming up here. Nice to come home. I always said, oh, I'm going home, and it was Fort Kent, I'm going home, and when I moved back down here, I was like, I'm home. I didn't want to be in an office setting all the time, and I knew a lot of people that worked in the woods, and I knew a lot of people that made money that worked in the woods. Forestry was a little bit uncomfortable to go into, no doubt in my mind, but I really liked the challenge, and I liked the idea of working in the natural resources field and being able to go fishing after you're done working. I thought that was a pretty cool idea too. So the economic hardship is there, but the positivity and we need to get stuff done, we're hardworking, we want to see this place bounce back is twice as strong as the paper mill closing. I just said, what do I have to lose? You know, I want to be here for the long haul. When I started out, I was maybe 21, which is still pretty young, to be talking to a guy who's old enough to be your dad, old enough to be your granddad, and trying to get them to believe in you and do what you want to do. If you're passionate about what you do and you like what you do, you'll be there and you'll do it well just because you care. I feel very strongly about being able to work in this area, and I wouldn't work in it, or I wouldn't continue to work into it if I didn't think there was any future in it. So to say that the forestry sector is, maybe slowing down or anything, that perception is it's just a perception. I'm gonna be in the woods. To what capacity, I don't know yet, but I plan on, still working with the students. So if you enjoy what you do, then everything else is hard and as difficult, and as long as maybe the days may seem, as long as your heart's really in it and you still love what you're doing, then the rest is all bearable.
It's a hardworking, outdoors, self-sufficient type of people. We don't enjoy people from outside telling us what we're going to do. We feel underrepresented, and I think that was one of the most difficult parts of the national park and it going through. We find a lot of decisions that affect us up here are made in Portland, which we find as a very difficult pill to swallow sometimes. First and foremost, I met Lucas St. Clair reached out to me. He is the son of Roxanne Quimby, who purchased all of the land, and he was put in charge by her to create people understanding what they were trying to do with the park and create support for that. Told him I'd only meet with him if he allowed me to vent to him for half an hour. without interruption, and he very nicely did. I go back to the whole voting process of Portland. A lot of what bothered my father and myself about the property is, again, it was an instance of somebody coming in and changing people's lives without any input into your own life. His mother, Roxanne, did that just like that. I changed my views and began to see how it could benefit the entire area. And I do feel that it can be a strong part of the community. Saw myself leaving Patton, Maine and never turning back when I was going to college. I went to Thomas College in Waterville, received my marketing degree, and had every intention of heading south and staying south. My father called me my senior year at Thomas College and had contracted Parkinson's disease and needed some help. And so I changed course and headed for home. We work hard and expect our employees to work hard. If you stay around the store for very long, you'll see customers coming in and hugs and handshakes, people making fun of each other, teasing each other. There's a real camaraderie that happens in our stores, and we always want to keep it that way. I think that we are slowly climbing. I think that there's been a renewed optimism of the people that are left here to see that there's other avenues to create an economy. There's been some growth to the area, and I think people are starting to be optimistic again.
I said I spent most of my youth in the mountains. I did a lot of walking and backpacking. That was the biggest thing for me, and I always wanted to get out of town. My dad liked to go to the beach. I like to go to the mountains. I'm the superintendent of Katahdin Woods and Waters National Monument and the only employee, so I do just about everything. The monument's 87,000 and some acres, and it was established for its cultural and natural resources. Historic, I mean, it's been a long history of river drivers, There's been Wabanaki people who've occupied or used it more than used it for 8 to 10,000 years. I think it can be one of many drivers up here for a diverse economy. You've got geology in the area. You've got some old growth timber, of which there's not much left in Maine. The biggest thing you work on is to make sure that people have a safe visit. That's my biggest concern. You know, 25 years ago, this was the richest per capita town in the state of Maine when the mills were going. Each community's got a little bit different history and personalities in it. You need to listen to that. There's not one size fits all. There's, as they say, there's no silver bullets out there where this one thing's going to solve all your problems. You know, you're going to get a wide variety of opinions, and some of the stuff that becomes, you know, there's nothing you can do about it, then there's nothing you can do about it, and you can't let it get to you. And I've been screamed at a number of times, and lots of times it's not really personal. Sometimes it is, but lots of times it's not. So the controversy, you know, it's change. It's, you know, I know you're going to find this hard to believe, but you'll find people slant things the way they want you to hear it. The hope is that will grow over time, and you got a more diverse economy for visitors. I don't think it's ever touted that immediately everybody would be making the same amount of money they meant when the mill was going on with unlimited overtime. That was never there, but you got a beautiful place here. There's been people recreating in it for years and years and years, for generations. What I'd really like to do here is to make sure that the steps forward are small, but you don't go backwards. I guess that's, you know, the big splash and then go backwards is not what needs to happen.
I started coming to Millinocket when I was a kid to climb Mount Katahdin. So by the time I moved here, I had climbed the mountain 8 times. Growing up in Caribou, I went to the Caribou school system. After that, I went to Bowdoin College in Brunswick, and then took some time off and finished off at University of Maine, Orono. So my degree is in molecular genetics and biochemistry, which is very different than what I'm doing now. So Design Lab is a marketing and design firm. We do logo development, website design, any kind of print advertisement. We produce television commercials, we do radio ads. John Hafford and I co-own Design Lab. John started Design Lab in 2004, so as a freelance venture. But we bought this building in 2015. Things were pretty dark here in the Katahdin region. There was a big fight over the national monument. The economy was just horrible, and there wasn't a lot of hope on the horizon. Is this going to be good for our children? Is it going to be good for our business? And so we considered other places. We considered, you know, if we're going to make an investment, do we believe in Millinocket, and do we believe in the Katahdin region?
The primary reason we moved to the Katahdin region, absolutely without question, is the wild splendor of this place. It's hard to even describe how vast the woods is here and how wild and free, 2 miles out of town is. So that's why we're here.
Did it have an impact in the community? Yeah, I mean, when we installed that sign, because it's a neon sign, we had people coming in to, what is this? What is Design Lab? And it lights up at night, and I think it really provided a boost to local businesses. in the downtown. Everybody stopped in to see what was going on. And it's always nice for the morale of a community to see a new business moving in. For 100 years, there was no need really for entrepreneurs in Millinocket. Everybody worked at the mill. But that's changed. And so there's tremendous opportunity for entrepreneurs.
I hope to see in 20 years a vibrant downtown. I want to see the schools thriving. I want to see the public library well-funded and really a vibrant center for learning and culture in the area. I would love to see more youth. I'd love to see baby carriages on the street. I'd love to see more diversity here. And I'd love to see a brewery. In terms of my personal hope, I hope to thrive here for the rest of my life.
My name is Joshua Stahl. I can remember my early years, which was the end of the golden era, if you will. I mean, I can remember we used to have a movie theater in this town. Yep. Believe it or not, movie theater, little shops. And then, of course, it started to slow down. The mill shut down slowly. People started to move away. Of course, the entire town grew up literally around that mill. So, high school downstairs, middle school upstairs, which, of course, used to be the entire high school. And there were 5 or 6 schools in Millinocket at one time. Now we're down to 2. It's tough here in Maine anyway. You know, we don't have a ton of industries. Not to mention we're not a great state for starting businesses in, unfortunately. But I think we're going the right direction. Currently, I think nature guides my life. I mean, such as I would never want to live somewhere where there wasn't nature. So for sure in that aspect, yeah. Life's like a river, you know, and there's fast spots and there's slow, easy spots, and then there's some wild Class 5 whitewater rapids. Life's very much like navigating a river, you know. Read and run, scout what you can. When you have easy sections, enjoy them. When you have rough sections, you can't shy away and just hope for the best, because that never works. You gotta put your head down, do what you gotta do.